So guys, let's see about MVC, that is model view and controller layer. What is M? M represents model layer and it is responsible to perform business logic and persistent logic related operations. View V layer represents presentation logic or UI UX logics. C for controller layer, it is also called as integration logic. Okay, or you can call here connectivity logics. Connectivity logics means I want to send the request from solid 1 to servlet 2, solid 2 to solid 3, or maybe JSP to other JSPs. I want to include solid and JSPs. Different case means if I perform logic, if I perform login, where should I send the where should I call the next page? When should I call the dashboard? When should I call the employee details? When should I call the which page needs to be called? That can be done by the controller layer. Fine. So generally, model is like an account officer. What is the meaning of model? It's like an account officer. Okay, it's not officially model layer is like a account officer. Fine, which is responsible to perform or to maintain the transactions from a database. What about V? View is like a beautician. View is like a beautician, which is responsible to perform formatting, disclosing of all the data in a presentation layers, or you can call the browser layers. How you want to present the data, where you want to keep the data onto the browser window. Okay, and a controller is like a traffic police. Traffic police. Okay, actually these are not official examples. General terminologies I'm telling to you. Okay, so I hope you got the idea. What is the meaning of MVC? Hmm? Fine. Don't give such type of answers in an interview. This is just for your understanding sake. Based, you should give this kind of answers in a highlighted answers. That is business logic, persistent logic, presentation logic, integration or connectivity logics. You need to give this answer. This is for your example 6. So, what is the meaning of MVC, guys? The logic that maintains and controls the entire execution of the application is called as integration logic. And this logic gives the connectivity between view layer resources and the model layer resources. The controller layer or connectivity logics is responsible to interact or connect the view layer and the persistence layers. So in the case of MVC, I got one class which performs only controller operations. I got one class which performs view operations. I got one class which performs only model layer operations. So how do I connect interchange between each of them? So that will be taken care by controller layer or connectivity logics. So the logic that monitors and controls the entire execution of the application is called as integration logic. Is called as integration logic, or you can call controller layer logic. Okay, and this logic provides or gives connectivity between view layer and model layer resources. Okay, आता लाईन चालू आहे का? Fine. Next up. So if you want to develop the application, if you want to develop the model layer logics, generally we use Java class or Java beans or EJB or web services or Spring with hibernate technologies. Okay. So to develop model layer logics, we use Java class or Java bean or EJB or web services or Spring with hibernate. or Spring with JDBC. Okay, technologies, technologies and frameworks. Next, to develop view layer, logics, we use JSP, HTML programs, JSP and HTML programs. Okay, JSP scripts or HTML scripts. Okay. Fine. Next, to develop controller layer logic, we use solids, filter, or actions in studs, or action controllers in a springs. Okay, so let's see now MVC1 architectures. So morning we have seen MVC1 architectures and MVC2 architectures. Now we shall see about one by one. We shall see now one by one. Fine. So let's see now MVC1 architecture. So in MVC1 architecture, architecture, single resource like servlet program or JSP program acts as a controller and view layer, view layer, resources and separate resource will be taken for developing model layer logic. Now you got the clear idea between model 1 and MVC1. Okay, in model 1 what we did, all the logics in a single solids. Okay, but in the case of MVC1, a single web resource program, that may be a solid program or maybe a JSP program, contains control logics and view layer logics, whereas model layer will be in a separate Java class. Model layer will be in a separate Java class. Okay, so let me highlight these points. Okay, next up, in MVC2, here MVC model. Here, let me add MVC2. In MVC2, architectures. Now, can anyone guess? Can anyone guess, guys? Now, who will handle which one? Huh? Now, earlier we had all three in a single web resource program: model, view, and controller. Now, in MVC1, view and controller in a single web resource program of a solid or JSP, and model will be separate. Now, what is left now? There will be a separate in MVC2. There will be a separate web resource program, either solid or JSP, for model, for view, and for controller. Okay. In MVC2 architectures, we take a separate. Resources for view, layer, separate resources for controller layer, controller layer, and separate resources for model layer, for model layers. Okay, did you clear now? So let's see a figure. Let me draw a paint. Is it done up to here? Huh? So let me open the painter if you are done. Done. So let me open the paint now. Now I'll show by the picture representations, just like we did earlier. So here also I'll draw a browser window, small browser window. Okay. And here I have a Java web application. And here I have what? Uh, Let me remove this one and delete, and let me draw a database software. Fine. And let me add the labels here. This is what? This is my browser window. This is my Java web application. Java web application. Okay. Java web application. But this is by using MVC architectures. This is by using what? MVC 1 architecture. MVC 1 architectures. And this is what? Database software. Database software. Fine. Now what I'll do, here I'll create separate program. Here I'll create separate program. Fine. Let me save here MVC 1. Because I'm going to draw MVC 2 also. Therefore, I made a copy. Fine. So here you will find a, let me use the different names. So here is my either solid or you can use JSP program, solid program or a JSP program. This is one more bean class. You can use Java bean, you can use EGBs, bean component. Okay. And okay, fine. This is more than enough. So whenever the browser gives in this solid program, I have the logic of view and controller layer. I have the logic of view, comma, controller layer logic. Controller layer, view and controller layer resources. Okay, fine. So what are those? What are those? So I can call here request data gathering logic. Next, form validation logic. Next, presentation logic. Next, session management logic. Next, integration logic. Okay, either in solid or in JSP. So in this case, in this example, I took only one solid. So you can have multiple solid also. You can have multiple solid also, no matter. So it's charging now. Fine, I have charging. Leave it. But in my case, the power cut. Okay, fine. It works. Fine. So solid JSP program bean component. So I have the bean component, and bean component performs only model layer, you can call. Actually, I want to keep this one in different color and this one in different color. But however, I kept as it is same color, and I will add here. This is what model layer logic. So this I used to keep in red color and remaining in different colors. So what are the logic is? I can add here business logic. I can add here persistence logic. And in this bean component, I have middleware services. Middleware services. Okay. Let me use some different color, maybe light blue. Actually, I used to make these different. These all are the blue color, but I forgot to click. Fine. What is this? This is the Java class or Java bean class, you can call. This is what Java class, or we can call here Java bean class. Fine. So whenever the browser gives the request, let me add the request now. Browser gives the request to where? To the solid program. Okay. This is the request. And this request will be trapped. All the request parameter will be processed by using request data gathering logics. It will be taken care by a form validation whether all the data is came into proper format or not, and performs the if any other operations it performs. Next, if necessary, it interacts with the what model layer, okay, or you can call bean component. Bean components gets this request, and if necessary, it interacts with the database software. And once the database softwares, it performs all the CURD operations, okay, business logic, persistent logics, and middleware services. It gives the response back to where bean logic, bean component, or you can call model layer. Okay, fine. And finally, all data will be received to where? To my again JSP or solid programs. So let me instead of writing here, I'll write here. I'll put the here. Okay, fine. And presentation log, and it will collect all the data, arrange all the data in the presentation layers, and send response back to where? Browser window. Send response back to browser window. So let me add the flow of execution points. 1. Then here is 2. Here is what? 3. Here is what? 4. Let me add here 4. Here is what? 5. Actually, make here 5.1 or 5. This and this both are 5. Okay, 5. Then this will be the 6th, and finally 7 will be the response. Okay, so browser sends the request. You solid trap the request. It collects all the requests. It collects all the data by using the request data gathering logics. It performs the form validation. Based on the data received, it decides whether to perform business logics or not. If it decides to perform business logics, and if necessary, it interacts with the database software to perform CURD operations. What the data has been received from the database software, this data will be collected by the business logic bean component, which is a Java class or Java beans. It sends the same data received from the database software to the appropriate solid program or JSP program. JSP program, solid program, collects that all the data from the bean component of the Java class or Java beans. It processes that all the data, integrate into presentation logics, and send that whole logics to where whole data to where browser window. Okay, this is the flow of execution by using uh, MVC1 architectures. By using what? MVC1 architectures. So here I'm added Java class. Here you can add others also like EJB, Already I provided, right? Already I provided all these models. You can add here EJB. You can add here Spring app, or maybe you can add here Spring with the Hibernate. This Java bin, I'm talking about Java bin. This Java bin. Okay, fine. So here it comes. This one. Okay, guys, fine. So now, is it done? Okay, I hope you got some idea. Did you? So here, figure, refer MEC1 architecture. Fine. So in MEC1, in MEC1 architectures, in MEC1 architectures or MEC1 architectures gives clean separation between the logics by introducing separate resources in model layers. Okay, so you can see here, I have separate logics for model layer logics or bean components, but I do not have separate logic for view, for controller. Are you getting? And this you can achieve by using MVC2. This you can achieve by using MVC2. So MEC1 architectures gives clean, clean separation between 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 logics by introducing by adding or by introducing separate resources for model layer for model layer. So to get more clean separation of logics, we need to work with the MVC2 architecture. Okay, fine. So use model 1 architectures to develop. Already I added this point somewhere. To develop small scale websites or web applications. Okay, or you can call max of 10 web pages. Max of 10 web pages. Use MEC2 architectures to develop medium scale application. Medium scale application. The max of you can go with the 30 pages. At max you can go with the not here MEC2, MEC1. Okay, and we can use MEC2 for what? To develop large scale application. Large scale application. Okay, max or above 30 pages. Fine. This is not as per industry, but as per my understanding, I added these points. Okay, fine. Let's see now MVC2 architectures. Let me open the figure. So let me open with the paint. Fine. So here I have solid program, solid, or you can call JSP program. Here you can add business logic. Actually, let me keep somewhere business logic up because I need some more space. Fine. And I need one more box here because this will act as a controller layer. This will act as a business component or bean class. And I need one more presentation logic. I need one more presentation logic here. So I wish to use different. Fine. So let me add here a business, or you can call business component, or you can call bean component, or you can call business component. And here is my already database software. Fine. Here is my what? Presentation logic. Actually, I do not have the space to add at the top. So that's what I'm writing in within the box. Okay. Presentation logic. Fine. So what I'll do, first let me add some of the information within this bracket. So here, I can write here controller layer. Controller layer. Okay. What controller layer does actually, it does integration logic. Integration logic. Okay. Visible, huh? Or should I change the color? Huh? Integration logic. Request gathering logic. Next, form validation logic. Next, sorry, session management logic. Okay. If it is not visible, I'll change some color. Visible now? Okay. And okay, more than enough. So let me add here what? This is what? This is which layer? Tell me. Model layer. This is which layer? Model layer. And model layer performs business logic. Okay. Next, it performs persistence logic. Persistent logic and middleware logic. Middleware logic or middleware you can call services. Fine. So instead of MVC1, what I'll do here, I'll add here what? MVC2. I'll select this one. MVC2 architecture. Fine. So browser window gives the request to the web process program, either solid or JSP, either solid or JSP. Okay, fine. So solid and JSP will trap that request. It performs request gathering logics. It performs form validation logics. If necessary, keeps the data in session management. Okay, session tracking, and it performs integration logic. Now controller logics, if necessary, controller layer I forget to add controller layer, and let me add here view layer. So I forgot controller layer and add. Let me add here and view layer. Okay, not required. It's not MVC2. It's an MVC. It's not MVC one. It's MVC2, right? So fine. Controller layer more than enough. So next, if necessary, whatever the code you're written, what is the logic you're done in the solids or JSP program, based on that, it interacts with what? It interacts with what? Model layer. Okay, or you can call bean component. Bean component traps that request and performs the business logic. If necessary, it interacts with the database software by using persistent logics. Okay, it based on the given query, database operations performs the query parsing, query execution, and result generations, sends the results to the again business logic in the form of beans, Java beans, Spring Hibernate communication, okay, or Spring components or EJB components or maybe Java bean, and it sends the same uh, data to where to my appropriate solid or JSP programs. Then next, solid and JSP programs will process the received data from the bean components and sends to presentation logic. Presentation logic traps that request and integrates your whole data received from your solids or JSP and sends that whole data in the form of presentation layer to the browser window. To the browser window. Okay. And here I can call presentation logic in the form of what? Generally, it is recommended to write in JSP program. JSP program. So here let me add here JSP program. Okay. And here let me write here presentation logic or presentation layer. Did you clear the flow of execution? Hmm? Let me add the numbering. Here is 1. Next here is 2. Next here I got the third. Here I'll get the fourth. This is my fourth. In between this, let me add this fifth. Okay. The arrow moving from business component to database and the arrow coming from database software to business component. This whole has a 5.1 or 5.2 you can add. The next business component to solid or JSP program communication. This is what? This is sixth. Okay. Then solid and JSP program interacts with the JSP program, or you can call presentation logic. This is seventh. Okay. And finally, this is what? Eighth. Whole response sent back to whole data sent back to what? Browser window. Doesn't look good in different colors. Okay, guys. So this is about MVC2 architectures. So you can see here, separate solid or JSP for controller layer, separate bean class, maybe Java bean or Java class, or maybe Spring Spring app, or maybe EJBs, or Spring with Hibernate, or Spring with the JDBC act as a business component, and a separate JSP program for presentation logic or presentation layer. Means MVC. Business component business component or model layer, JSP program presentation logics or view layer or presentation layer, C for controller layer, that may be solid or a JSP program. Clear now? So here is logic separate, here is logic separate, here is logic separate. Okay. And here if you develop the application by using MVC2, your development cost will be faster because you are separating logics, and you will go with respect to parallel development. We'll go with respect to parallel development. Now let me add the flow of execution 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So with respect to this figure, let me revise once again. Browser window gives the request to web application. Okay. Next, the second point. What the second point does? Here is controller. Controller layer act as a solid or JSP program. So the controller solid program or the JSP program traps and takes the request given by the client. Here client is what? Browser window. And the third point, this is the third point. Controller solid passes the request to model layer. Here, request has been sent to the model layer. Okay, to the model layer, to the business component. Next, fourth and fifth. This is fourth business logic, persistence logic, and middleware services. And is fifth point. So business component generates the results. This business component generates the results through business logics. So in this process, if necessary, okay, if necessary, it also interacts with the database software uh, to perform the CRUD operations or CURD operations or DML operations. Okay. Next, sixth, from business component to solids or JSP program or controller layer. And the sixth, business components generated results. Business component generated results or received results from the database software comes back to the controller layer in a solids or JSP program. Then controller solid, this controller solid or JSP solid, JSP controller program passes the results to view layer. Here you can add presentation layer or here you can add a view layer. Okay, view layer of a JSP, and finally this JSP program formats and process the results by using presentation logics and send those results to the browser window, and finally this browser window will show the results to the end user. Okay, so if you want, let me add the figures. So figure refer MVC2 architecture. So you can label by yourself MVC2 architecture. With respect to above figure flow of execution. Control X, flow of execution of above figure to MVC architectures. So let me add the first point. What is the first point? Browser window gives the request to the controller layer. So for this is for your information only. Already I have explained, but in near future you may forget about the flow of execution. So let me add those note point. So browser window gives request to web application. What is the second point? Controller to business component. Next up, controller solid tracks, or you can call traps, and takes the request given by client, or you can call browser window. Okay, next up, controller solid passes the request to model layer business component. Model layer business component means what? Beans. Okay, Java beans or EJB or Java class or Spring app or Spring plus hibernate, Spring plus JDBC, etc. Bazal, Kubzal. Okay, fourth, fourth and fifth, fourth and fifth point I'm combining here. So what is the fourth and fifth? Yes, I got the request. It necessary interacts with the database software and gives the result back to business components. Fine. So business component generates results through business logics. In this process, in this process, it also interacts with the database software if necessary. Sixth, what is the sixth component? Sixth, the flow of execution. Yes, I'll get the response. And next JSP program and eighth browser. Fine. What is the sixth point? Business component. Business component generated results comes back to or send back to send back or comes back to controller layer, controller solid. Okay. Next seventh, controller solid passes the results to view layer JSP program. And finally, eighth, the JSP program format the received results by using presentation logics and sends those results to browser window as a response. Now I hope you are clear about this flow of execution perfectly. Now let's understand what are the advantages of working with the MVC1 architectures. Okay. Leave it. Advantages of MVC2 architecture. After this, we shall see about application. Okay. So as you have observed this diagram, this figure and the flow of execution, you understand about this flow of execution. So based on this diagram, can you able to find out the advantages? So if you observe here, you will find multiple layers. Since there are multiple layers, uh, okay, in this web application, Java based MVC2 architecture based web applications. So since there are multiple layers, we can achieve a clean and separation between logics of different layers. Okay. So modification done in one controller layer will not create ambiguity or confusion or maybe the issues in other layers. Okay. If I modify controller layer, if I modify model layer, or if I modify JSP program, it does not create any issues. So modification done in one layer does not affect the logics of another layers. Next up, obviously I separate the logics in different layers so I can perform a parallel development of a web application. I will work with the backend. I will work with the controller layer. Some other programmer will work with the business logics or a model layer. Some other programmer will work with the presentation layer. Some other programmer will work with the database design operations. Okay. So I can implement parallel development if possible. So in this way, my productivity of the project development will be faster and easier. Next up, in near future, if the same project web application comes to the development, maintenance, okay, if the same project comes to the near future for the maintenance, so it is easy to perform the maintenance and addition of new feature or can you call enhancement of existing projects will be easier for the same projects. And while working with the Spring, or you can call the Hibernate or EJB technologies, we can use some of the built-in middleware services. So these are the some of the advantages or benefits of working with the MVC2 architectures. So let me add this note point. So since there are multiple layers in MVC2, in MVC2, so we can achieve, so we can achieve, we can achieve clean separation between different logics of the layers. Okay. Next up, modification done in one layer logic does not affects the logic affects the logic of another layer. Okay. Next up. So obviously I can go with the maintenance. So easy to perform maintenance, easy to perform project maintenance and enhancement of the project, and the logic is in separate layers, so I can go with the parallel development of different layers is possible. Hence the productivity is very good, or good you can call. Next, let me add next point. So while working with the Spring, Hibernate or EJB like technologies, EJB, let me add here struts. Actually, struts is outdated. Struts is outdated. So technologies and frameworks we can use built-in middleware services. So like advantages, there are some disadvantages. Actually, I should not call disadvantages. But first, so while working with the MVC2 architectures, you should have the knowledge of different technologies. Okay. Then parallel development means definitely project cost will increase. Project cost will increase. So here, knowledge of knowledge of knowledge on multiple technologies is required, and parallel development means obviously when you try for parallel development you need multiple programmers. Okay, parallel development will lead will need or will increase the multiple programmer requirement, multiple programmers requirement. Okay, and obviously cost will increase. Obviously the cost will increase. Okay, fine. Now you may get the question, how parallel development will happen. How parallel development will happen. How parallel development is possible in MVC2 architectures. how parallel development is possible in MVC2 architectures. So actually, project manager or the team leader divides the teams into multiple parts or multiple parties you can call. Okay, and so for example, I have two parties, team one, team two, or party one, party two. Okay, so party one or what party two, team two does, team one does actually. So for example, I have party one, or you can call team one. Okay, similarly, I have party two, or you can call team two. Okay, so this will who will divide, project manager, or you can call team lead, project manager or lead, you can call the leads divides the teams into multiple parties. Okay, so I call here party one, team one, or party two, team two. What party one does? So party one contains some of the web authors, like they uses the servlets, they uses the JSP technologies, and develop the presentation logic and develop the presentation logics of the view layer. Okay, so team one is paying attention or uh, putting the hard efforts on the presentation logic development. Okay, and team two, they are working on or developing or using the Spring technologies, using the hybrid technology, using the web services, and develops the business logics and persistent logics. Okay, team one has three people, team two has six people. So team one are working on a presentation logics, and they are working on parallelly, and this team also work parallelly. Okay, so take example here, I'm adding three members, three programmers, you can call. This is general example, because based on the projects and duration, these members and the programmers size will change. Suppose here I'm taking as a six programmers. Okay, so we can call web authors. What they do? They uses solids or JSP. In this case, technologies, and develop presentation logics of view layers. Okay, and here they are JW developers. You can call JW developers. What they use is they uses Spring, Spring with Hibernate. You can call Hibernate, or they develop the web services, or they uses EJB, maybe the struts 2 actually is outdated now, no one is using. Technologies and frameworks, and and develops. So here let me use ampersand, and develops business logic, comma, persistence logic of model layer. Okay, so since these two teams these two teams can work parallelly, so we can say parallel development is possible. Parallel project development is possible. And maybe you can call team 3 testing team, you can call. Okay, maybe team 4 we can call SQL or DB team. a database team. Okay, did it clear? Okay, guys. So in this way, I can perform a parallel development. Fine. So let me add one node point. Servlet to Java bin and JSP to Java bin communication comes under MVC1 architecture. MVC1 architecture web application. Whereas Java bin acts as model layer resource. Model layer resource. Okay, guys, fine. So let's see an example Java web application. Uh, Java web application. Web application which will show advertise rotation, or you can call add rotator. Advertise will flip one by one. Okay, add rotator, or you can call advertise rotator web application.